Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to day 3 at the Tokyo Olympics. I think this might be the nicest sunset we've had so far, and we've had some glorious ones. A beautiful evening here, possibly because we're expecting a storm to come through, but nonetheless, it's still right now and a lovely evening in Tokyo where the medals are coming in thick and fast. Among the winners today, Australia's Ariana Titmus beat the defending champion Katie Ledecky. It was a thrilling contest in the women's 400-metre freestyle, but it's been the Brits stealing the show here. An emotional victory for Tom Daley and Matty Lee in the men's synchronised 10-metre platform diving, and Team B notching up another gold when swimmer Daley and Peaty underlined his dominance in the men's 100 metres breaststroke. We have been speaking to Adam's girlfriend, watching back at home in England.
I can't even find the words to describe it because I don't think I've felt this kind of pride before. Obviously with George there's a lot of pride, but it's so different, isn't it? He recognises the swimming now as well because we all get so excited when it comes on. So he sees the lanes and the blue water and he starts to get excited, and then he sees his daddy. Not necessarily when he's swimming does he recognise him, but when he's celebrating you definitely saw him, didn't you?
If he were here now, with you now, what would you say to him?
First of all, I'd give him a huge hug because that is just what I'm dying to do. And then I tell him that we're so proud of him and we love him so much, and that I didn't expect anything less from him.
Fantastic achievement from Daley and Peaty. Our reporter Jane Dougal has been watching all the action from the BBC Sports Centre, and she told us about the huge weight of expectation that was on Adam to retain his breaststroke title.
There was a great deal of pressure on Daley and Peaty to deliver. He was the defending champion. So when people expect you to win, that can be hard to consistently do. But boy, did he do it. In spite of all of the issues surrounding these games, he said he thought he'd had the best preparation of his life. And then another obstacle was thrown in his path: morning finals. Swimmers do not like morning finals. They like evening meets. And he said that though he had adapted and that it wasn't about who was the best all year around, it was who was best on the day, who was the most adaptable. Well, he did adapt and he won the first gold Great Britain of these games, and he's become the first British swimmer to defend an Olympic title, which is an incredible feat. He's a world record holder, of course, and he blew away the competition to win this 100 metres breaststroke. From start to finish, though, as you said, it was a perfectly executed swim. He finished in a time of 57.37 seconds, 6/10 clear of the field. And he did admit that he cried when he went to hug his coach, Melanie Marshall, who was also in tears in the crowd. Of course, as we know, no friends or family to cheer them on. And he said that was another issue, that he missed that. He missed hearing the roar of the crowd, but it didn't affect him enough to damage his hopes because he brought home that gold.
Very emotional time at the diving pool as well for Tom Daley and Matty Lee, who won gold. Tom Daley's 4th Olympics. I've been speaking to an understandably ecstatic Tonya Couch. Now, she is the former Team GB Olympic diver, but also she's a childhood friend of Tom Daley's.
I was on the edge of my seat with my hands on my face saying, they've done it, as in the Chinese. I thought they might have just taken it over because their last dive was amazing, but it just wasn't enough. So it was just, it was incredible. I was up on my feet, jumping, screaming, crying, all sorts. It was so good to watch.
You've known Tom for so long. What will this mean to him?
Oh, it'd mean the world. I was just actually saying to my boyfriend that Tom has won World Championships, World Cups, World Series, Commonwealth Games, Europeans, but never that Olympic gold medal. And we all know he is able to do that, but unfortunately it's never gone his way. So today was just incredible for him. So pleased for him.
And Tonya, what about Matty? His first Olympics, of course, not nearly as experienced. What do you think he brought to the pairing mentally?
Yeah, Matty's first Olympic Games, I was a little bit nervous mainly for Matty because I know Tom, he's got it. He's done it many times. He knows what pressure is all about. But for Matty's first Olympic Games, my fingers were so crossed for him to just hold that nerve. the fact that, one, it's his first games, two, he's standing there with Tom Daley, and three, the pressure was just unbearable. So the fact he got up there and he looked so calm, I honestly, I don't know how he did it. So hats off to Matty Lee.
Absolutely. And what do you think it will mean for the rest of the team for this kind of start?
Yes, it's a very good start. Hopefully it's going to lift everyone's spirits up high, especially because there's no crowd for anyone to be cheering them on. So I really, really think this is going to be something that GB is going to be able to thrive off of.
Tonya, you'll know that many people may have counted Tom out. It's his fourth Olympics, and yet he's hung in there. He has worked so hard. He's talked before as well about how becoming a dad has changed his mindset. How has he changed over the past few years? Tell us a bit more about his headspace and where he's at the moment.
I think you're right with having a child and being able to dive all the time. It's something on the other side where you have your mind taken out of it. So when you're training all the time, it's very difficult to come home and switch off. And, now he's got a family of his own. He's able to do that. So I think it's actually made him a lot more calm. And not the fact that he doesn't care, because that's not the point. It's just maybe it's not just his life anymore. He has diving and a family. So that is his life, not just diving. So I think having his family watching him today has probably made him a little bit more calmer going into this, because, whatever happens today, he still has his family to go home to. So I think that's why he's absolutely nailed it for today's competition.
Some sadness though, Tonya, that they weren't actually here in Tokyo at the pool to watch, that they were at home in front of the TV?
Yeah, it's gutting for them, because I can imagine the crowd when they won that. I wish I was there, but yeah, they were watching from home, and I'm sure they were with their family with a nice glass of prosecco cheering for them. I wish I was a fly on their wall, that's for sure.
I'm sure the Prosecco was freely flowing, lots of tears and emotions here in Tokyo. Let's talk to sports psychologist Matthew Cunliffe, who joins us from London. Matthew, there's lots of questions I've got for you around how you're training the athletes to cope with the difficulties of these games. But can I start by asking you about what you say to an athlete when you're preparing them for possible success?
I mean, we start this preparation years in advance, so there's no real one thing we say, but we certainly ask them to control the controllables, focus on their process, and really just go out and enjoy it, because for some of them it's their first games, for some of them it's multiple games, and it should be a fun, enjoyable experience. So focusing on those controllables and focusing on that process is kind of the way in which we go to get athletes ready for games like this.
And do you tell them that success or failure can't define your whole life?
Well, yeah. So success or failure can be measured in different ways, right? So there's more to success than a medal. Athletes will go out with obviously this medal in mind. They'll go out wanting to win, but there's other things that come in with success. There's the way in which you go and compete. There's the things that you have to do to get to be a competitor. And there's a process that we go through. There's a number of skills and techniques that have to be performed really precisely in order to achieve that success. So we'll be really, really outcome focused. We'll be focused on this idea of going for a medal, but we'll also be really process focused, focusing on the skills, the techniques, the tactics that we've planned and trained for years to come to where we are now. So we'll focus on both, and that usually helps the balance of managing the pressure of an Olympic Games.
And Matthew, what about the challenges involved in this particular Olympics? Everything from the daily testing to the restrictions to the fact that family and friends are not here. How did you work with athletes on those issues?
So I was really fortunate enough about 3 years ago to be part of the English Institute of Sport, where we were really focused on the biggest challenge that we knew at the time, which was the heat. We spent a lot of time doing heat prep, working in heat chambers, help testing athletes on their physiological and psychological reactions to the heat. And then coronavirus and COVID got involved. So we really had to start to think about what differences were going to happen. And obviously the crowd effect is a massive one. So we know that crowds typically increase performance by about 20%. So we knew that was not going to be there. But we also knew that the Tokyo and Japanese athletes were not going to have the home advantage that we had in London. So we could kind of play with that a little bit, and we would change our training slightly to adapt for that. But yeah, there's a big challenges around testing and crowds that we have to overcome, and ultimately we just have to incorporate into our day-to-day routines. Typically, athletes are quite routine focused; they do the same things day in, day out, and we just needed to incorporate those things into the routines to make it as lifelike and as games-like as we can in the lead up to the games.
Matthew, really interesting to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, let's take you now to Mariko Oi, our correspondent who is in Shimbashi in Tokyo, and some further success, Mariko, for Team Japan today.
Indeed, we're just waiting for Shohei Ono of judo, who has made it to the finals, whether he can win another gold medal for Team Japan. We also had Momiji Nishia, the youngest ever Japanese athlete to win a gold medal in skateboarding. We also had Naomi Osaka progressing to the next stage. Of course, we probably shouldn't expect anything less from her. But while Team Japan is doing incredibly well, there have been quite a lot of criticism from the foreign athletes as well as foreign media that the scorching heat of Tokyo, it has been too brutal. If you're wondering why I'm standing in front of the train, that's because there's a temperature board behind me, and while it has cooled down somewhat this evening, it has been so hot all day long. It has been an issue every year, ever since I was a child actually. The Tokyo summer can be quite brutal if you're playing sport outside, though I have noticed that it has gotten a lot hotter as I came home this year, and that means schools, coaches have to do extra careful in order to protect the children. Under the scorching sun of Tokyo, girls from Dengen Chofu Gakuen High School's tennis club carry on with their extracurricular activities. But every year, around 3,000 children suffer from heat stroke during club activities like this. There have even been deaths in the past. Hidenobu Nakano has been the school's tennis coach for 17 years, and he says the hotter summers mean they have to be extra careful.
We measure the heat stress index every hour to make sure it's safe to practice. Lately, we've been gathering early in the morning at 7:15 a.m. or practicing in the late afternoon when the temperature isn't too high.
It's under this heat that the world's top athletes are competing for gold during this summer's games. The conditions mean we're less likely to see a volley of world records tumbling.
Just by being in the heat exposure, the cardiovascular, so your heart system, have to work harder to maintain your performance and also body's ability to thermoregulate, maintain your body temperature in a good state. That will also be impacted greatly.
The last time Japan held the Summer Games was in 1964. It was in October when the weather was cooler, so having the games here now has raised concerns that the intense heat and humidity of the Tokyo summer could pose a serious risk to athletes. But when the games are held, all has to do with the global sport calendar. These are the major events, and there's a gap between late July to August. Broadcasters around the world pay billions of dollars for the rights to show the Olympics. They need to show it at the right time of year and the right time of day.
Broadcasting is one of the two most significant revenue sources for the Olympic movement. So, the IOC is going to want to keep its sponsors and broadcasters as happy as can be.
And that means some events like marathon and race walking have been moved to Sapporo, where it's cooler, while others are taking place in the early morning or in the evening. But increasingly, it's not just a battle for a medal, it's also a battle against the heat. Lucy, it's a bit hard to imagine now, but from one extreme to another, we are actually expecting a typhoon to hit Tokyo and the northeast of the country tomorrow. We are hoping, we're still planning to get to Miyagi Prefecture, where they're having football matches with spectators, one of the few, of course, tomorrow. But I'm not sure whether that has to be rescheduled if the typhoon really hits the region. So, of course, we'll keep you updated today and tomorrow.
Thanks, Mariko. Some other events have been delayed because of the storm that we're expecting here, of course. Geeta, one other thing to tell you about the heat. It was interesting listening to the sports psychologist Matthew Cunliffe just talk about preparing the Team GB athletes for the heat. Tom Pidcock, who won gold for Team GB in the men's mountain bike cross country today, trained back at home in Leeds in a heated tent. And he's saying that really paid off because really hot, difficult conditions as well as challenging terrain. He led from halfway through the race and held that lead all the way to the end. So that was a calculation that for him has definitely paid off and won him gold today.
Amazing to hear all the training routines there, Lucy. Stunning backdrop behind you. It's been amazing just in the last less than half an hour to see the sunset and the sun go down. But thanks very much. We'll be back with you very soon.